Yeah, so last week, for folks that didn't catch this story, two teenagers rolled up to the largest mosque in San Diego and killed three people. They opened fire. We would learn later. They were decorated in all kinds of Nazi imagery. They had painted racist messages on their firearms. They killed themselves at the end. They left a manifesto. And this was like, almost as close as you could get in the US to an attempt to one reproduce the 2019 Christchurch shooting, which is, I think, the deadliest, and if not like one of the deadliest racist mass shootings recorded, right? That shooting sent a shockwave around the world. Tech platforms responded, governments responded.
Also, it was quite shocking just the way it played out with the live stream angle and stuff like that. It felt like it felt like it was a performance for social media.
I mean, it was. And it successfully has inspired like a whole lineage of copycats. And what we saw in San Diego was one of those copycats, but copied to such an extreme degree that even among the copycats, it stood out to me. Looking at the documents they left behind, it's clear to me this was, these people were like absolutely cooked on the kind of Nazi accelerationist stuff you used to find, and I guess can still find on Telegram. Hannah Gaze wrote a great piece about it at SPLC. You should go check that out, breaking it down in more detail than I have time to here. But how I did my research, I'm kind of familiar with these spaces where these folks hang out, and then sort of a secondary set of spaces online that are obsessed with mass shootings like this. And it was there that I saw people that were sort of in spaces with these teenagers or adjacent to those teenagers, passing around manifestos, passing around video clips, social media accounts, doing their own sort of amateur investigation into this. So I was able to kind of find some leads there, test them. Not all of them were good, but some of them I felt had enough information to corroborate and, kind of work off of that and go from there. But I felt it was important. Like, part of the reason I did so many media requests this week is because despite all of these things I've laid out already, the police came out and were like, oh, these kids, they hated Muslim people and black people and women. I mean, they hated everybody. It's really nihilism, right? And the FBI kind of said something to the same degree too, trying to chalk up this shooting, which was a copycat of the Christchurch attack, which nobody has questions about what motivated that, and to kind of stuff it in under this banner of nihilistic violent extremism.
Well, what does it mean? It's like a designation. It's a designation that more and more people are using in law enforcement.
It's kind of the new bucket that federal law enforcement is using that would otherwise be called other, right? The term,
it's motivated. I'm sorry, I'm asking. I actually really don't know. So it's motivated primarily by this, nothingness, right? Like this desire to just eviscerate everything.
It's just obsession with violence, obsession, just a hatred of like the entire world, and to go out of this world by inflicting some kind of violence that damages society and causes pain to other people. This term kind of came into existence in researcher spaces some years ago, and it was used to describe like a very specific sort of subset of groups, things like 764, Order of Nine Angles, which will adopt the kind of aesthetics and appearances, of extremism, but really don't have any sort of, hard commitments to the ideology. A school shooter that is thinking along these lines may think it's funny to paint a swastika on their gun before they go shoot up their school. but were they motivated by Nazism to shoot up their school? It's like, it's meant to try to capture those kind of cases. But in the Trump administration, my feeling is that we've seen this term over-applied to the point of sanitizing racially motivated extremist violence, which is something that the FBI has denied as a problem, divested resources and attention from, and instead try to redirect focus to immigrants and Antifa, or, the quote unquote far left, right?
Yeah. It seems like from where I'm sitting here that you can call any particular racially motivated attack possibly nihilistic, right? I mean, in theory, right? I mean, Bowers is very clearly motivated by the Great Replacement conspiracy theory and a hatred of Jews at the same time, like woven together into one narrative. That's why he carried it out. He's also potentially just completely depraved and obsessed with things that most normal people are not obsessed with, like anything on Gab. Like anything on Gab could be theoretically nihilistic. Is it like that they're just taking it and just carrying it out and saying, well, yeah, the Buffalo shooting, like the guy tortured animals or whatever, like he's very obviously a nihilist. Is it like that?
I mean, that's how federal law enforcement's using it. The term came into existence to try to address a real problem, right? And identify a threat that didn't fit kind of the mold of how extremism and terrorism prevention's been thought about, right? And there's been some really excellent work done on this topic, right? So all these the researchers that kind of came up with this as a way of describing a very specific kind of problem wouldn't use the term like that, but federal law enforcement is using the term like that. And you could ask like 4 different organizations. You could ask the ADL, the SPLC. You could ask, a handful of other research organizations to define this, and you could get 4 different definitions. And I think we have to be uber specific when we talk about this stuff. And this terminology and the way that it is defined is too messy to the point where it is almost impossible to be precise with it. And that lends itself to abuse. So I am not a fan of this categorization, the way it's discussed. I wish that people that research on these topics would see how federal law enforcement is over applying this to sanitize, acts of violence that, kind of go against what they've said about how, white supremacy is not really a threat. The SPLC invented racism. So it could, in that indictment. I kind of wish my fellow researchers in the field or whatever would just kind of take the medicine, move on, and go back to the drawing board and think about a more precise way to talk about this stuff.